Greetings all, nail masters, moss pastors, and cheap bastards. If you just clicked on this video, it either means you need help with a certain radiant boss in the Hall of Gods, or your cursor accidentally missed the 1-hour lo-fi hip-hop playlist that was right above me and clicked on this video instead. But no matter your reason for being here, welcome. Now, let's skip the formalities and talk about some goddamn bosses. Only use your dash when you want to move horizontally. The distance between the platforms are just about a dash length apart, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. When the Gruz Mother begins pinballing herself up and down, you can use Mark of Pride and Long Nail together to reach her from across one of the platforms when she comes down. The Radiant version of Vengefly King is hard, mainly because it requires you to fight 2, so it's best to focus on 1 and make sure he's out of the fight as soon as possible. I like Sharp Shadow here because sometimes they'll swoop down at weird intervals, so you can downstrike on 1 and then Shadow Dash through the other while still doing damage to both. After downstriking over one of them, you can also hit the same Vengefly with the Shade Soul on its way back up. Do everything you can to stay in the middle of the screen. If you corner yourself when the Mawlek goes for a slashing attack and your Shadow Dash hasn't recharged yet, you're pretty much just fucked. When the Mawlek spits across the arena, Sharp Dash through him and start spamming him with as many nail strikes as you can squeeze in. This guy isn't too hard. Not sure if you even need tips on this one, but here you go. Those boulders can be knocked back at the False Knight when he's going berserk in the center of the screen. He'll actually leap towards the center of the screen first and start smashing stuff. And if you have Quick Slash equipped, you have a pretty large window of time to get in 5 or 6 good hits and then dash away when he starts attacking. If you do this in combination with the boulders, you can knock him back down again before he even finishes the attack. Use Sharp Shadow to dash in the opposite direction that he's attacking. If he leaps backwards, this means he's preparing his shockwave attack. Give chase and dash behind him to avoid the wave completely and keep the pressure on. Use the Dream Wielder charm to Dream Nail his head when it pops out between phases, and then spam spells when he goes nuts in the center of the screen. Hornet Protector is vulnerable as soon as she drops down, so whack her a few times before her intro animation finishes. When she staggers, charge up a nail art so you can get in as much damage as possible when she's still. If you have a Shaman Stone equipped, and you should, the knockback of the Shade Soul will likely lead to Hornet getting hit twice by the same spell. When Hornet enters her second phase and starts throwing out spike traps, a Shade Soul from across the screen can rip through them all pretty quickly. Aside from that, do everything I just said, just, do it better and faster. When Massive Moss Charger means to measure the course, meet the Moss in the center and masterfully maneuver over the chaparral, right before mailing a mortar to his camp. He's massive, he's mean, and he's self-centered, but his movements are mechanized and melodramatic if I'm candid. Magnify your Moxie with a charm, majorly multiplying the capacity in which your mortar will make chase. Yeah, just put on Heavy Blow and Quick Slash and spam him until he dies. That's it. It's literally that easy. Use Quick Slash to get in a couple more hits than you normally would when one of the lords are hanging on the sides of the cage. Keep in mind the fact that your Shadow Dash gives you iframes, so if you're put in an awkward position, you always have the option of dashing through an attack instead of over or around it. The Sisters of Battle requires you to fight all 3 lords instead of 2, so the attacks come in much more frequently and can sometimes overlap with each other in some really annoying ways. Your Shadow Dash and your Desolate Dive spell both give you iframes to work with, so if you feel like you're about to get caught, just pop one of those to avoid an attack. You can also Abyss Shriek one of the sisters on the wall when they throw their boomerangs to sink in some extra damage. Focus on damaging them both at the same time with Shade Soul or Abyss Shriek. When one dies, the other goes into a frenzy phase and gets a pretty decent health boost. Gather them both together and hit them with a Shriek. That way by the time the second Oblobble goes into his conniption fit, he'll probably have next to no health left anyways. It's best to fight nail with nail when facing the Hive Knight. If you have Sharp Shadow and Quick Slash, you can dash through his melee attacks and still have enough time to get in a couple more hits before he winds up another one. He is pretty vulnerable when he's busy vomiting bees all over the screen, like I would imagine most living things to be. Dashing through his attacks is especially important here because jumping over him and downstriking will sometimes throw you into the path of another bee. If you have Shaman Stone equipped, Shade Souls will push back the broken vessel and will almost always hit twice. When he takes to the center of the room and starts opening this pit up like a local hardcore show, you can actually stay pretty close to him if you're good at dodging in between his infection globs. He's completely immobile in this state, so you can probably finish him off before his attack even finishes. Pretty much the same advice I had for Broken Vessel. Eliminate the infected balloons immediately as they spawn, because not only do they give you free soul, but you're going to feel like an idiot if you leave him alone and accidentally jump into one of them 3 seconds later. Don't feel the need to be aggressive all the time. The distance of his jump is pretty much whatever he wants it to be, so let him jump first and then worry about reacting to it. If you're having trouble dodging Nosk when spitting globs from the ceiling, just inch forward as each glob comes down and they'll all drop right next to you. Don't stand too close to him when he's spitting globs in the center of the arena because they can kind of clump up and it can be difficult to judge exactly where they're gonna land. So keep your distance and let him come to you. He has like no HP, so you can afford to play passively. The same build you equipped with Nosk should serve you just as well fighting the winged variant. Winged Nosk is surprisingly easy to kill on Radiance so long as you don't overthink her spitting attack. It covers pretty much the entire arena save a few gaps in between, and there's no use trying to dodge it when you don't even know where it's going to hit yet. So the best way around this attack is to stand completely still until you're able to see their trajectory, and then just calmly move over to the left or right accordingly. The Collector drops no soul from being attacked, but that's not to say spell charms are completely useless. The minions he knocks down at you can basically be used as soul batteries, and if you have Soul Eater equipped, you'll pretty much have at least one spell ready to go for when he comes back down. I would still at least recommend having Strength on though, because the minion HP in Radiant mode is 26, meaning you won't be able to kill them in a single hit unless you have Strength equipped. Surprisingly one of the easier ones. The God Tamer is basically one giant hitbox that spits disease at you every now and then. The rider attacks so infrequently and is so easy to dodge around that she's honestly worth ignoring half the time. So your ultimate priority should be to kill the beast. Have on Sharp Shadow so you can safely dash through him whenever he winds up a spit attack. If you can get behind him when he's doing this, he actually stays vulnerable for quite a long time. Then use the old Strength and Quick Slash combo to slice him down. Hammer away at him using Quick Slash and then Sharp Dash through him whenever he charges a laser. That's it. That's the tip. That's all I got. The best solution is often the simplest one. Load out with what I and many others have started calling the noob build and just go ham with it. Sharp Dash through the Guardian when charging a laser and keep the pressure on with Quick Slash. When he screeches, stop what you're doing and take time to observe where the lasers are going to land first before continuing to attack. With Dream Wielder equipped, climb to this platform right here and Dream Nail Uumuu a couple times at the start of the fight to build up your soul. Do everything you can to keep Uumuu in the middle of the screen when it summons the Uumuu jellyfish. If you see one close enough to Uumuu but you're out of range to hit it, a Shade Soul should detonate the Uumuu immediately and take down Uumuu's shield with it. Shade Soul also hits twice because of the knockback and hitbox size. Use Sharp Shadow and dash in the opposite direction of his attacks to avoid them while staying close. Your Shadow Dash recharges at the exact same rate that he attacks you, so you should be able to dash through every single attack. Staying close to him also lessens the likelihood of him using his projectile and shockwave attacks, which are much harder to avoid. GPZ stays pretty still when spawning Zotelings, so this is definitely the best time to attack him. If you have a Strength and Quick Slash combo, you can get in 3 or 4 hits and do some pretty significant damage. When he starts flinging his nail around, you can actually pogo on his head and time your double jump so that he's right under you every time you strike. Also, the Zotelings have 30 health, meaning pure nail and strength kills them in a single hit. You can use the Sharp Dash to counter a lot of the Soul Warrior's attacks. When he slashes horizontally, Sharp Dash through him and turn around for a quick Shade Soul before he teleports off screen. If he launches a Soul Projectile and your Shadow Dash is available, you can actually dash through it to kill the projectile outright and prevent it from circling back to you. Sharp Shadow can actually be a huge help in this fight. When the Soul Master hovers across the screen, dash through him and Shade Soul behind you for extra damage. If you have Shaman Stone equipped, the spell will likely hit twice, of course. The extra dash distance is also decent for dodging the dives on his second phase. Try not to use as many spells when you think he's about to go into his second phase, because the more soul you have available, the more Skyrim shouts you can toss up his ass when he stands still. The Soul Tyrant relocates much more than the Master variant, making him extremely hard to pin down. Sharp Shadow is really useful for the extra distance, and I also like combining the Pride and Long Nail charms here so your nail has the maximum reach. The wider dash distance combined with the larger nail makes it much easier to keep up with the Tyrant, even when he's teleporting around. Everyone probably already knows this, but the Dung Defender is extremely weak to the Desolate Dive spell. When he begins burrowing, DD his ass out from underground and he'll pop back up to you in a staggered state. You can either use this time to charge up a nail art, or just whack him some more if you need the soul for spells. You can also juggle him in the air for a while by striking up when he curls up and starts pinballing around the screen. It's a damn shame that doesn't work on his dream variant though. The White Defender is vulnerable though as soon as he appears on the screen, so if you position yourself just above where he's going to leap from, you can get in 2 or 3 good nail strikes and have a spell ready before the fight technically even begins. Equip Dream Wielder so you can dream nail the knights as they're brought into battle. Use Shade Soul as often as you're able, and it will likely hit 2 of the knights at the same time. Try your hardest to either stay on the left or right hand side of the screen, or keep both knights on the same side of you. You almost never want to be between them. This is effective because if both of them decide to roll at you at the same time, a single shadow dash through one of them means you've likely avoided the other as well. Spell builds are extremely useful here. It's always better to be able to attack No Eyes from afar than to chase her down and risk a mistake to one of her ghosts. Pay attention to the glow on the screen and you can get a pretty good idea of where she relocates to if she exits your view. Getting away with less platforming is always the smarter move, even if sometimes the answer is just staying still to avoid danger. The longer your nail, the better. You can try and play paddle ball with Marmu as she ricochets off the ceiling, but the timing is really awkward and it's a good way to get yourself killed. Dash through her when she starts moving horizontally and use a boulder shell to protect yourself if you feel like you're going to get hit or you lose the pattern. Whenever you're dashing across platforms to keep up with Xero in the sky, try and time it to where you're not only keeping up with him, but also dodging one of his swords at the same time. He remains still when bringing out his second set of blades, so take the opportunity to yell up his ass a few times to shave off a pretty large amount of his health. Go all out on melee attacks during Markoth's first phase when he's a little easier to approach. Build up your soul for when he brings out the second shield and immediately start spamming Shade Soul. Most of the spells will hit twice due to knockback. If you can pin him against a wall, 4 or 5 of these with Shaman Stone should kill him almost instantly. Just watch out for flying javelins, because they'll kill the shit out of you. Galien's main scythe is going to be your biggest problem, as the other 2 he summons are much easier to keep track of. If you walk around in a certain way, you can sort of control where the scythe is going to go. Basically, just fool it into thinking you're walking away from Galien, and then just walk back towards him once the scythe starts moving in that direction. Aside from that, just stay under him and yodel up his ass until he dies. Like most dream bosses, spells are almost always preferred over melee. Keep Gorb at range by using Shade Soul when across from the screen. The platforms are set up in the same way as Radiant Gruz Mother, so you need only dash to and from the platforms to clear them. Getting too close to Gorb during his final phase can cause his projectiles to jumble up and get really difficult to avoid. You can Dream Nail Mato quite a bit once he drops down to help out during the second phase. If you have Dream Wielder on, I know you can get at least 3. They're likely always going to be standing beside each other, which means a single Shade Soul will likely hit both of them. Also, if one is busy doing a nail art, look for the other one because chances are they aren't doing much of anything and are usually open to being attacked. Also, bow at the end of the fight. That's not a tip or anything, obviously, but you should do it. Your Shadow Dash will get you through just about all of Sheo's attacks. He has a surprisingly low amount of HP for being the final boss of the second pantheon, even on Radiant mode. You can Dream Nail him while he's staggered and build up your soul reserves, and as long as you can read his attacks and know where the projectiles are gonna go, you can take care of this fight pretty easily. Having on Pride and Long Nail at once means your nail will be able to match the reach of Nailsage Sly. Sharp dash through his dash attack and pogo on his head during Cyclone if you're confident enough to do so. Once he reaches his second phase, stay in the middle of the screen at all times. Getting cornered by this attack is pretty much certain death. You can either hit him as he comes to you prior to his attack, or dash away and hit him afterwards. Usually he'll dash around 3 or 4 times before dashing to you and attacking, so your Shadow Dash should be recharged every time he comes after you. Sharp dash through his horizontal attacks and pogo over him during his triple slash combo. Having on quick slash means you can hit him a good few times when he comes out of his focus attack, although it's never wise to attack more than 3 times here. If you get disoriented by his slam attack, you can always use Desolate Dive for the iframes. Sharp Shadow also lets you close more distance when he brings out the void tendrils. Jump, shadow dash to him, and then go in for a down strike. Repeat until victory. Grimm appears on and off screen pretty frequently, so having on Pride and Long Nail at once to maximize your reach can result in getting in an extra hit before he vanishes. When he goes into his fire spawner, immediately back yourself up to the very corner of the screen so you have time to react to the pattern. You should aim to get in at least 1 hit during each of his attacks, and he should go down pretty quickly. Even in his Nightmare King phase, having a strength charm is still recommended. Jump in between the first and second fire bat here and dash through the third one, and you should wind up right next to him for a couple attacks before he vanishes. Walk slowly in Grimm's direction when he's summoning fire pillars, and then Abyss Shriek him immediately after the fourth one. For absolute Radiance, the Abyss Shriek is where most of your damage will be coming from, so naturally you'll want charms that make it as viable as possible. A lot of this fight is determined by how good you are at managing the cooldown on your dash. Your Shadow Dash can pass through the horizontal swords, the light pillar, and it can even kill the soul projectiles and prevent them from circling around. Honestly, there's no quick tip or hack that I can give you for this one, just practice. Surprisingly, a lot of her sword attacks can be dodged by simply stepping out of the way. Do a few practice runs and only dodge her attacks. Don't worry about doing any damage whatsoever. Once you feel comfortable dodging, add the damage to it and then go from there. If you're gonna beat Abzerad at all, let alone hitless, it takes commitment and it takes practice. Prepare to set aside a few hours of your time because you will need all of it. Just for reference, it took me about 6 days in total to clear Hall of Gods from start to finish, 5 of which were spent on GPZ, Markoth, and Abzerad. So yeah, some of them are pretty easy, but this shit takes time. You're not going to go in and storm through it on your first attempt just because you watched this video. If I made it look easy, that's because I deleted all the footage of my failed attempts that number quite literally in the thousands. So yeah, make this a long-term endeavor. You won't finish this in a day, I promise. I'm Rusty, and thanks for tuning in. Good luck in the hall, and I'll see you on the other side. Take care.